morning. Welcome to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Tuesday edition, and that means good old Buddy Martin will kick off the program. And then in the second portion, we'll have Gator great, College Football Hall of Fame member Carlos Alvarez, the Cuban Comet, joining this show. So a great show. Kick back and enjoy it. But we're going to go straight now to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by good old Buddy Martin down in Ocala. Good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good old Buddy Martin's doing okay. Good morning to you. And by the way, I'm honored to be even on the same, not on the same program because we'll be on a different time, but the same marquee as Carlos Alvarez, one of my all-time favorite Gator football players. Terrific guy and an unbelievable receiver. I was fortunate to watch him play, and boy, it was a fun time. He was a terrific player. Had he not been hurt, he'd have been a great pro.
Yeah, I'm anxious to talk to him, buddy, too, because, I knew a lot about not a lot about him, but, growing up in Mississippi, I knew nothing about Carlos Alvarez, but being around Gainesville and the Gator program all these years, I've learned more and more about Carlos and what kind of player he was. But just reading up on his bio, man, he was a heck of a player and still holds a ton of records at the receiver position. And when you think of all the great receivers that, came through this program, especially in the Spurrier era, it's still amazing that all the records that he still holds.
He would stand up to anybody. And by the way, he and John Reeves were transformative players. And I won't go into the deep history, but the opening day against Houston, you probably heard about the bomb on the third play of the game. And it was home, baby, for 3 years. And you talk about it, somebody needing something, Gator football needed it. And that was a tremendous season until they won a national championship. It was my favorite season because they won 9 games, and Carlos was an All-American, consensus All-American. Couldn't play as a freshman. He would have had more. But tremendous player. And John Reeves, of course, I have to tell you what a great player he was. So, R.I.P. to John Reeves.
Yeah, buddy. Hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. Let's kick off the program and talk about the match. Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson with Brady and Peyton Manning. Obviously, the golf wasn't great, but it was extremely entertaining. Some great shots, some great putts here and there. I thought it was outstanding. Your thoughts?
I didn't know what to expect. And I thought their production was a little rough the first 15 or 20 minutes because of the format. You didn't have anybody telling when to talk, which is both good and bad. The audio problems all over the place with all the mics they had. The cameras didn't seem to know where to go, but the candid nature of it and being up close and personal with athletes of their magnitude and their stature and the marquee of it, and then just the inside baseball sort of stuff you got to hear and see, and the trash talking, that was really fun. And even Charles Barkley got involved in it, which stirred up Tom Brady and got it ticked off, right?
Yeah, I thought it was great just being able to hear what these guys were talking. And obviously Peyton is really good at stirring things up. And,
he is.
Some of the comments they had between each other. I felt bad for Brady. Their handicaps are not really handicaps. I think Brady and Manning are around 6 and 8 handicaps. They're probably not, but playing in that type of competition with the whole world watching you, I can see how you're a little nervous and don't hit very good shots. But I thought it was great the way they did it. I thought some of the comments Brady said one time, he had his Smokey the hound head cover, and Brady, see, y'all hadn't been very good since Peyton left. Just the little jabs here and there. I thought it was great. I thought it was going to be a very boring match the way it started out, but then Phil and Tom Brady made a little comeback to make it pretty exciting there on the back nine.
And the trash talking was fun, and then Brady, of course, holding out for the fairway with the 6-iron and whatever it was he used, 160 yards, and then splitting his pants. And shushing Charles Barkley, saying, "Suck on that, Charles,"
Yeah.
And then I tell you, who was great at it Manning was great trash talking.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny part about it was the quiet guy was Tiger. He didn't say much of anything.
He really didn't, and it was, what's interesting is I was fortunate enough, buddy. Gosh, this was in 07 or 08. After I was done playing, I got a call. Archie Manning was my hero growing up.
No.
He played with my dad at Ole Miss. So I know Peyton, I know Eli, I know Cooper. Not great, but we all know one another.
Mm-hmm.
And I get this call from Archie. This was like in January. He's like, "You want to go to Scotland, play golf with us? We have some Zurich insurance based. I think they're based out of New Orleans or somewhere. Was putting on this thing with over in Scotland with some rugby players, like some charity golf event." And I'm like, "Do what?" I was like, "Can you repeat yourself?" He goes, "Do you want to go to Scotland with us for a week, 7 days? Everything's taken care of." I said, "Archie, who's going?" He said, "It's going to be me, Peyton, Eli, and Cooper, but it's going to be Archie, Peyton, and Eli, and you are in this golf format." And I was like, "Okay, hang on a second. I appreciate the offer, but my resume is nothing like you three." He goes, "We need a good golfer." And so I was like, "Sure." So I spent 7 days over there with those guys, and it was phenomenal. And Peyton's gotten a lot better since then. The thing that surprised me the most about Brady and Peyton in this event was they didn't hit the ball very far. You know, they had one time they tested their long drive on a hole, and it was like 220 yards. And as big as, both those guys are 6'5" ish. They should be hitting the ball a lot farther. But regardless, like you said, it's hard to play in an arena like that on national TV when that's not your sport. The weather was horrible, horrible.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to draw it back. I played with a few people who were pretty well known, but no one like that. Being in that arena, one of the competitors. Are you kidding me? I kind of felt sorry for Tom Brady. As a matter of fact, I didn't think I would, but all the anti-Patriot fans love seeing Brady fall on his face. So it was kind of cool to get back and hold that out. So it was fun to watch. It makes you wonder too, Shane, how watching these last two phenomenons on television as we did, the Michael Jordan series, The Last Dance, and now this live golf match, which by all accounts had really maybe the most watched golf tournament in history on cable TV, not a tournament. It makes you wonder now, TV executives, what are we going to do different here? Because these are phenomenal numbers. Now, granted, there's not much on TV, and there's a dearth of sports, and we're all looking for anything to watch. But they've turned out pretty well, and I think we'll see some of this kind of stuff in the future, don't you?
I definitely think so. I thought them adding the quarterbacks to this event, which they had this event last year, I thought adding the quarterbacks made it much more interesting because, as you said, being in a different environment that you're not used to and being such great at your sport, I think that's what made it fun for me to watch because I've played in events when I was in the NFL. The NFL used to have a deal with the senior tour up in New Jersey at the Upper Montclair Country Club, where you were paired with a senior player. We had to make the cut each day, and we were playing for charity of our choice. But you had a crowd there, and I'll tell you, buddy, being on that first tee when they introduce you with, Jim Dent or whoever the senior player was, I've never been so nervous in my life. And all you can think about is, do not shank this ball and hurt somebody.
You say, please move back. Please move back.
So, I mean, the good thing about not yesterday, but when they had this event, Brady and Manning couldn't hit anybody because there were no fans out there to hit. But I thought it was good. I thought it was great for us to be able to watch something like that. And all the talk back and forth, I think, is what made it the best. And what was awesome is the money they raised.
$20 million. Wow.
I mean, think about, Brooks Koepka tweeting, it's going to give $100,000 if Tom can just make a par. I don't think he did make a par on the front nine, but he made that birdie when he holed out. But I thought it was great.
Yeah, I loved him calling in too. That was fun, and other guys called in too. Russell Wilson and giving the money, and A-Rod called in for J-Lo about tickets. And anyway, it was a fun deal. Raised a lot of money. I don't know we'll have this opportunity again because let's just say that just happened because of the pandemic. But I think we're going to see a lot of things changed, and I think we're going to see college football changed as we're getting closer now. Because I know your son has to report today and get his COVID test, like all the athletes, as they start getting it. It's going to happen now, Shane. We can now see, unless there's some major setback, it's going to happen. College football is going to be here. And I have a lot of concerns as to you, I'm sure, with your son being there. But I don't know what's going to happen when somebody tests positive. I know yesterday Charles Barkley said on Feinbaum's show, if one team or school can't play, they all shouldn't play. I don't believe that. There's going to have to be some things that, like, some teams are going to be set back and say you can't play for 2 weeks till everybody's quarantined or whatever and tested. And that's going to make it different. I'm not sure, Shane. Do you think they have a special set of rules, or they won't declare a champion this year in the Big Ten or whatever? Because the president of Michigan says no way is he going to have sports up there. So some decisions have got to be made. The good news is we're getting closer, but the bad news is that no one's figured out what happens if Florida and Georgia are playing for a title game and the Georgia Bulldogs come down with COVID, and say, okay, they can't play. Was that fair to Georgia? I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do know, as you mentioned, my son has his test today, and I think they're going to do testing each day on X amount of players, depending on who's here in town, and things like that. And then they start working out, and they've moved everything into the indoor practice facility because there's, air can flow in there. They can open the doors, air can flow. They could space the squat racks and the bench racks and all that kind of stuff out. And they're only going to allow, I think, 10 to 12 players at a time working out. Players are going to have to, wear your own clothes. So, they're not going to be going in the locker room or doing any of that stuff. They're going to have a plan if someone does come down with it. Obviously, that person will be quarantined or what have you. But, I don't really have many concerns right now, buddy, because I feel like we need to get on with what we're going to do. Are there going to be some athletes that are going to report that are probably going to get it? Yes. Maybe not here at Florida, but maybe somewhere. But I just think we need to get back to sports and get back to living a little bit. And maybe I'm in the minority here, but I think if you're smart, and the people at Florida are very smart, they're going to take care of the student athletes. They're not going to put them in any danger. But you're right when it comes to the season. What teams are going to be playing this year? When we do play, as you mentioned, if your opponent has a member on their team that has it, what happens for that game that week? There's still a lot of question marks there. But I do think there's going to be a college football season. The more I keep reading and hearing, would surprise me if they start when they're supposed to start. But there are going to be some teams that don't play this year, and for whatever reason. And I think when it's all said and done, whoever your national champ is in 2020, there's going to be an asterisk by it.
Yeah, and I don't agree with Barkley that says you shut it all down, But again, there's some tough decisions to make, and there's going to be college, and there's definitely going to be NFL. They're talking about some people playing in front of full capacity crowds. I cannot see that happening. I don't think that will happen, especially early on. But
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because you haven't heard the SEC talk about games with fans. How many people are going to be allowed in the stadium? I have seen where you're going to be required to wear a face mask, but can you imagine sitting in the swamp for a 3:30 game, and as hot as it is in there, and have to have this mask on? You won't be able to breathe. But you got to do what you got to do. So we'll see. The NFL is a different story, obviously. I don't think their fan base is as big as most colleges. But it'd be interesting to see how they do it. They're going to play football. Most of their revenue comes from TV. So I'm anxious to see when they get started. I think they're going to start on time.
I am too, and I'm excited about it. I'm thinking about becoming a Tampa Bay fan again. I've been around a long time. There are some advantages to being old. I actually bought tickets and became a season ticket holder. You're Steve Spurrier. It wasn't because of that. It just happened to work out that way. Went to play for the Bucks, and I got out of sports writing and watched them lose all those games. And that's the last time. I think I held them 2 years and gave them away. And nobody wanted to buy them on the 50-yard line, I might add. So consequently, I'm looking at what's happening down there now with Brady and Gronkowski. There's a lot of excitement going on. I'm going to follow them, Shane. And I haven't followed the NFL very much lately.
No, I'm with you. I enjoy watching the NFL. I don't have a team that I follow. Obviously, growing up, I love the Saints, but I'm anxious to watch. I like Bruce Arians a lot. I actually got to meet him last summer up at Dan Mullen's golf tournament up in Lake Oconee up in Georgia. They both have a house up there at Reynolds Plantation, and they had a charity event together to raise money for their different charities. And great guy, great offensive minded guy. And you saw the numbers they put up last year with Jameis Winston. Um, they have so many weapons on offense. They got a very good young athletic defense. I'm excited to watch the Bucks too, just because of Brady. And it's going to be interesting to see, buddy, because everybody's always talked about, can Belichick and Brady make it apart from one another? Well, we're going to see how good the New England Patriots are, because I don't think they're going to be very good. I didn't think they were great last year, but I think they're going to struggle definitely this year. I think the Bucks have a chance to be very good, but they're playing they have to beat the Saints, and the Saints are loaded again. But I'm anxious, like you are, to watch Tom Brady. And it's interesting. We were talking earlier. Rob Gronkowski, you said he didn't really go to Tampa because of Brady. He went because of a family member.
Yeah, as Gronkowski, I read, it said it wasn't Tom Brady. He was on Ellen DeGeneres' show. Apparently, I read this, and they said, "Well, it's great. Tom Brady went down and got you to come to Tampa." And he said, "Well, Brady was an appetizer, but the real dessert was my mom, who lives 2 hours away." So I looked her up, and she, Diane Gronkowski, they said she lives in Fort Myers. Actually, she lives in Estero. She has 5 sons, and she's 2 hours away. So she's going to get a chance to see her son play in the real if she wants to. Today, I'm not sure I'd want to go out there. I think I'd rather watch on TV, but that's fun. And you're right about the about the Patriots. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. They have not given Brady very much to work with, in my opinion. I think Belichick thought he could do it without getting the receiver. He needed more receivers. He needed help. So this team already has more talent than what Brady's had in 5 or 6 years in New England. And Vegas is making a team that's going to be contending. So I'm going to be following that. We're going to get a lot of games. We're going to get a chance to watch it on TV. And I'm looking forward to Tampa Bay and watching Brady and Gronk and that whole team. So it's going to be fun.
No doubt. We got a comment here on Facebook, which is brought to you by Pound Hurt, your preferred business interruption attorneys. Todd says, another interesting thing is how the fans are going to react. Are they going to come back and support in person when they can see a game in their home or on TV? That's the big thing, because, if this would have happened back when I was playing, buddy, there was only a couple of games on national TV, but now every SEC game is televised. And so it's much safer, much more convenient, more comfortable to sit in your air-conditioned home on your couch or in your recliner and watch it on TV. But I will say, I still think if the SEC plays football, I think the fans will show up, just because it's a way of life in the SEC. It just means more, right, buddy?
Yeah, it's what they say. And by the way, I didn't appreciate the cheap shot that Colin Cowherd gave to people in my age group yesterday about the fact that they should stop playing to the diehards in golf and do this more often. He said the fans are not going to go to the diehards, the old people. Most of them are too old to get out of their recliners. What a cheap shot by Cowherd, by the way. But I think it is a TV game. Look, I get a free hot dog and a free seat in the press box, right? I don't go to every game. I really like being in my living room or my den and turning on my chair and having my cold drink right there, and the bathroom 2 feet away, and lunch right there. And we all do. And it's on my big screen. And then if it's a lousy game, I can step away for 5 minutes or change the channel, or I can see other games. So it's it's the whole experience for me. But there is nothing quite like being in the swamp on a big day.
No, I agree 100% with that. I'm kind of like you. I enjoy the atmosphere, the pageantry of college football. There's nothing like it. But when I like to watch games, I like to watch games. And by watching it at home, you can always rewind real quick. Who missed that block? Rewind it. You can see, as you mentioned, at commercials, I can flip it to another game. So it's going to be interesting to see if fans are allowed in these stadiums, how many show up.
It is. Really is. I'm looking forward to it. I will see. We don't know what we're dealing with. It's an unknown. But just give me some football, fans or no fans, whatever, and I'm good.
We got another Facebook Live comment here brought to you by Pound Hurt. It comes from Gene. He says, a season ticket holder, I'm curious to see how this plays out. I really don't want to wear a mask, but I'll do what it takes to go and support my team. I've got no word from UF as to what changes might be made. I think they will let us know the closer we get, but I think they're still trying to figure it all out and what's the safest thing for our fans if we play football.
I agree. And I think you got one of the best athletic directors they could have right now. This guy's on it. And I think, he's smart, and they're going to, like, you have a son out there and you feel safe. And I think Scott's done a terrific job on that. And the answer to the fan, I agree with him, but we just don't know. We can't make decisions till we know more, right? I'd rather be patient, and if we got to start 2 weeks late, whatever, or we're going to have no fans, whatever, let's get some football. We'll all appreciate it. But right now, we can't take the risk without knowing what's ahead.
Yep. And I mean, you think about, go back a month ago, buddy, they were talking about athletes not reporting till maybe August, September, October. Well, they're going to be reporting and starting workouts June 8th. So things are looking brighter. Obviously still have a long ways to go, but I'm being very optimistic that we're going to be playing football here.
Yeah, I didn't think they'd be starting on time. You asked me a month ago. I thought, no way, shrink the schedule, play 10 games, drop the cupcake games, whatever, and let's have some kind of football. But it looks like now they're talking about starting on time. So maybe things will change. Let's hope for the better. But, listen, I don't know what we do without college football in the South. It just wouldn't – like somebody said yesterday, I can't fathom them ever, like Tony Barnhart said, not having football. We've had baseball strikes and NBA strikes, and we've not had seasons before and so on and so forth. But football's always been there. And in college football down south, it's like not having dinner or not being able to have your barbecue grill. You got to have college football. And to me, it's gotten bigger than ever because it's not just a game now. It used to be one game a week for all of us, the game of the week. And now it's basically game day at 9 o'clock and all the way to 1 o'clock in the morning. It's all football wall to wall. And I'll tell you, it's fabulous. I love it.
No doubt about it. Well, buddy, I'll be on your show tonight.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, but we appreciate you joining here on a Tuesday morning with good old buddy Martin.
Thank you. We're going to have a psychiatrist, one of the top people in the University of Florida. She's a psychiatrist and a medical doctor, and she's going to tell us a little bit about coping and a little bit about what to look for and the stress of teaching your kids, etc. So tonight we're going to deal with that on the Buddy Martin Show. And Shane Matthews will be our star on the program tonight.
All right, buddy. Take care, buddy. We'll talk to you tonight.
Good old Shane.
That's Buddy Martin. You can check him out on Twitter at Buddy Show. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Come in and experience the Center State difference. To learn more, visit centerstatebank.com. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We're going to take our first time out here. When we come back, we're going to be joined by the Cuban Comet, College Football Hall of Famer Carlos Alvarez. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Area Rug Masters, your #1 choice for rug cleaning. And Pound Hurt, preferred personal injury attorneys.
Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, and Davis Chevrolet.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point is where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Tommy Hilfiger, Hotel Indigo, Nike Medici's, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate. We're now going to go to the Titan MR hotline and be joined by Gator great Carlos Alvarez. Good morning, Carlos. How are you?
Good morning, Shane. I'm doing great. I hope you're doing great too.
Yes, sir. I really do appreciate you joining the program. You know, I'm a guy who grew up in Mississippi, didn't know a whole lot about Florida football or anything until I got here. And all the years that I've been here, I hear more and more about Carlos Alvarez, and just reading up on you is so impressive. Let's talk about, I like to go back to when kids were, our guests were real young. You know, you and your family fled Cuba as a 10-year-old. What was that like? Or do you have any memories of leaving Cuba?
Oh gosh, yes. It's an unbelievable adventure in a sense, and really part of my life that I will never forget. And most Cuban kids that left at that age would never forget. I have two brothers. One recently passed away, but I have two brothers and a sister, and my mom and dad. And after Castro came in 1959, January of 1959, my father had actually gone to law school with Castro, with Fidel Castro. And as soon as he came in, he said, "We're leaving." And a year and a half later, we came to the United States. We left everything behind. It took him about a year to convince my mom that we had to leave. And that's how come it took so long. So we got here, we moved to North Miami, not Southwest Miami, North Miami. And back then, Miami was a lot different. You know, now it's like a big Hispanic community. Back then, there was nothing. And we had been in Catholic school, and we went to a Catholic school here, St. James Elementary. Not a single person spoke Spanish. I lined up the first day of classes. I lined up in the wrong class. They finally grabbed me, put me in the right class. I sat behind a guy named Paul Armstrong. The reason I can remember his name is because I was told to do everything that Paul Armstrong did. And so, and the teacher, her name was Mrs. Schmalik. I mean, I remember, I can tell you, how you can remember all of it. I can remember all of that because of the impression that it had on me. And a great teacher, you know, one of those people, as you're probably aware in your life, you know, that was such a great mentor early on. And if it wasn't for Mrs. Smalik, I don't know what would have happened to me. For example, right away in 5th grade, you do spelling bees, or at least you did back then. We did spelling bees, and the first 3 or 4 months of spelling bees, I was out like on the first word. I couldn't even spell cat, you know. But in my school in Cuba, I was 2 grades ahead in math.
Oh,
so
wow.
She knew that for the kids to think, you know, gosh, this kid's totally stupid, right? But then on math issues, she would have me on the board solving the problems real quickly. And so they would say, it's kind of an odd kid, you know. And so I had that kind of help. I had those kinds of experiences. It was great to have 2 brothers because my dad really relied on us. He told us, you guys got to stick together. I had an absolutely great dad and a great mom. I know you had a great dad. I know he just recently passed away. So my condolences to you.
Thank you.
But I had just an absolute fabulous dad and mom, and somehow made it through those tough years.
So you go to North Miami Senior High. You play
Right.
football there. You play both ways. Let me ask you this though: what got you into football? Because I would think, you know, growing up in Cuba, there's so many great baseball players that come out of there. Did you not want to play baseball?
I did want to play baseball. In fact, that's the only thing I wanted to play when I came here. And really, it's an interesting story because when I came here, luckily, just by luck, where we moved, 10 blocks away was a boys club. Back then, they were called boys clubs. Now they're called boys and girls clubs. Mm-hmm. And the Northwest Boys Club. And it just happened to be 10 blocks away. And after about 9 months, we found it. And, you know, you go through the 3 seasons, baseball, basketball, and football. And I went through baseball, basketball, and then all the kids started going to football, and I just went home. And after about a week, I kind of missed it. And then I started to think, because one of the things that you want to do is I wanted to become an American. You know, you don't want to be outside the group. I wanted to be like the other kids. I wanted to be an American. So I decided that football was my ticket. That was an American game. So I started playing football at 95-pound and under football. And of course, I tried out for the team, and I was always fast. I was the fastest kid. So incredibly enough, they made me the quarterback, which you can appreciate. And, you know, you don't pass a lot when you're 95 pounds. You just run around ends. And that started my football career. And then, I mean, I still played baseball. And in fact, we were just talking before we were into the podcast about the baseballs behind me are the baseballs of Minnie Minoso, a great Cuban baseball player that played for the White Sox. It was also called the Cuban Comet. And who's my hero in so many ways. So that's how I got into football. And the more I played, the more I liked it. I really, really loved the game. I don't know exactly why, but I love the camaraderie of the game. I love the physicalness of it. You know, ended up at North Miami and doing well there. And then the Gators came to recruit me.
Speaking of the Gators, I believe Ray Graves was the head coach when you signed with the University of Florida. You had some brothers that were at UF. Is that the main reason why you wanted to sign with Florida, or did you have some other opportunities to go elsewhere?
I had opportunities to go elsewhere. I had Georgia and Georgia Tech, Miami, LSU, Vanderbilt, but I had watched Florida when Florida used to go down to Miami to play, and the Spurrier era, Steve's era, was right ahead of me, and they were a passing team. Well, as much not a passing team like your era passing team, but you know, let's face it, Steve was the one who brought passing into the Gator program, and I just thought that I was a high school running back, but I thought there was a running back at Florida called Larry Smith, great player. I just thought I couldn't take the beating that Larry would take. Larry was the kind of runner that would be straight up. And when I watched him in the Orange Bowl play, I mean, I just thought, I'm not as big as this guy. How am I going to take all those hits? So I thought, I want to be a wide receiver. At least give me a try at wide receiver. And Florida was willing to do that. And knowing that, you know, the Spurrier legacy of Florida and what he had done, that Florida would have a passing attack if we were good enough. Now, what I didn't know is that, and really never thought in my head, and you'll get a kick out of this, that a passing game requires a quarterback. And God gifted me John Reeves, yes. You know, and really, I mean, what a fabulous, fabulous quarterback. And when he gifted me John Reeves and I came to Florida, we hit it. We just meshed really well. Speaking
of John Reeves, obviously, some say he probably could throw the ball better than any other quarterback that's ever played at the University of Florida. He's a very special person to me. I know he's very special to you. You know, people don't realize when I got my opportunity under Coach Spurrier, as you know, Carlos, when you're 5th or 6th on the depth chart as a quarterback,
yeah.
You know, okay, you 5th guy, go down there to the running backs, you go throw the tight ends, and then the starters stay down and throw to the receivers.
Yes.
I got sent down to John Reeves, who coached tight ends, like the first 2 weeks of spring practice. And so he and I built a close bond. And he's the one that really got in Coach Spurrier's ear about giving me a chance. And so I owe pretty much my career to John Reeves. And talk a little bit about John Reeves, what kind of player he was.
Gosh, Shane, I'm so glad you shared that story. John was, you know, he was a rock star when he came to Florida. He was a Tim Tebow type of player that everybody wanted him out of Tampa Robinson. Everybody was talking about him. Everybody wanted him. I didn't know anything about him. I didn't even know he had been recruited to Florida, but I still didn't even know anything about him. I met him at the high school all-star game, North versus South. That used to be played in Gainesville, like in August, right before the season started. For some reason, 3 weeks before we reported at Florida, that's where I met him. And right away, John was full of confidence. And he was just a confident player that absolutely loved football. To him, football was his life. He told me this one time, which I didn't believe to this day, but he says, you know, football is the last frontier. And it's not to demean John, it just shows the intensity that he had about football. And you probably saw some of that when he coached you. I do think, you know, I mean, Florida has had incredible quarterbacks, and you're certainly within that grouping of incredible quarterbacks. But as far as a drop back passer, a true drop back passer, I just don't know anybody better than John, just because, you know, back then you didn't do the shotgun formation that often. In fact, we probably ran it just a few times over the years I was there. It was just, you know, that 7-step drop back or the 3-step drop back and throw it. And John was just fabulous. You know, he was your size kind of a guy, you know, when he played. And he could throw the ball incredibly. He could throw all the routes, all the different tree routes. And what was great about John as a wide receiver, he had a ball that was easy to catch. And a lot of times people don't talk about that. Mm-hmm. But, you know, you can have two quarterbacks throw the ball, and one of them is really easy to catch. And I'm telling you, John had a ball that just floated into your hands. And so he was a winner. He was highly competitive and absolutely loved the game. That's John Reeves.
Yeah, I'll never forget because, you know, we'd go out for pregame warm-up. This was in like 1990, Coach Spurrier's first year. We'd go out for pregame warm-up, and the quarterbacks, you know, are getting loose. And Coach Spurrier called him John Bob. John Bob is over there warming up with us, taking drops, throwing to the receivers. And Coach Spurrier would be like, John Bob, you're not playing, my man. Let these guys warm up. But that's how he was. He loved to throw the football. We're speaking with Carlos Alvarez here on the Titan MR hotline, the Cuban Comet. We got a couple of Facebook Live comments brought to by Pound Hurt, your preferred business interruption attorney. Jeff says, a North Miami pioneer. Me too. Nice. Lawrence Wright and Ben Hanks also. And also Hall of Famer Steve Carlton went there as well. So
yeah, Steve Carlton.
Yep. All right. So Carlos, let's talk a little bit about, while we're on John Reeves, I got to ask you this. I threw 5 interceptions against Mississippi State my senior year. Tell me what in the world was going on when y'all played Auburn and he threw 9 interceptions, because you would think after the 4th or 5th or 6th one, coach be like, okay, we're going to put somebody else in. How'd they allow him to throw 9 interceptions?
Well, let's see. We went to Auburn. We were 6-0, and we got to Auburn 6-0 because of John Reeves.
Right.
And the coaches felt like he took us to the dance, and so we're going to dance with the person who took us to the dance all the way. And really, we had Jackie Ekdahl, who was from Gainesville, was the second team quarterback, and Jackie was a great quarterback. But he couldn't throw the ball like John Reeves. And it really, what happened at Auburn, is that we prepared for a certain defense that Auburn always played, and Auburn switched up on us and played a totally different defense. And we could not adjust because the defense was basically telling us, run the ball. They had dropped back too many people, run the ball. And for some reason, we were not able to run the ball early. And so we had to throw it, and we got behind early. And then the coaches just felt, hey, let's see if we can come back. And what's amazing, what I tell people about that game, it's amazing, is that they only scored 38 points. We had like 14 or something. But just think, 9 interceptions and they only scored 38 means our defense was playing lights out, But it was an odd game. The other starting wide receiver, Paul Maliska, ended up in the hospital at Auburn, almost died because he had a concussion. It was just a wild game. So we threw, I think, 66 times.
Cool.
Think about this. Auburn had Heisman Trophy winner Pat Sullivan and Terry Beasley, who was the best receiver I ever saw on the field in college. They threw about 33 times. So all in all, we had about 100 throws.
Wow.
That game lasted forever. I mean, forever. I remember the last pass that I caught, which was late in the fourth quarter, both of my legs cramped up. Because back then, I was on the field quite a bit. It wasn't now where you switch up really good, especially after Paul Maliska got hurt. And I was exhausted. I was just like done. And so that's how come we got 9 interceptions. And I'm sorry for John, because of course it makes him look bad, but it's not. It really, part of it was John, but part of it really was we came in with the wrong game plan. And I also don't want to throw the coaches under the bus, because those coaches prepared some of the best game plans in the 1969 season that you would ever want. They were the kind of game plans that would get the offense all excited. And we would bring the defense into the meeting room and tell them what our game plan was. They would tell us what our game plan. We would all be hooting and hollering. And some unbelievable game plans, like our first game, Houston, where they just got blown away because even though the offense didn't play the first team offense didn't play in the fourth quarter, there was no way to stop us. They were so confused as to what we were doing. And so anyway, those were the kinds of game plans that we had. But unfortunately for Auburn, we didn't get it there. And it would have been sweet because we would have won the SEC championship had we gotten
We're speaking with Carlos Alvarez on the Titan MRI hotline. Carlos, you're the UF career receiving yardage leader. You're in the UF Hall of Fame, Florida Georgia Hall of Fame, UF All-Century Team, Academic Hall of Fame. We have a Facebook Live comment here brought to you by Pound Hurt and Preferred Business Interruption Attorneys. Dan wants to know, Carlos, you are in the Florida Georgia Hall of Fame. Talk about what that rivalry meant to you. Florida Georgia. Yeah,
it was really, I think, what every Gator player and probably every Georgia player thinks of it. It's really, to me, it wasn't like the game of the year, because the game of the year to me was always FSU. And that was kind of driven into me by the seniors at Florida when I was even a freshman. And I'll just speak briefly about that. When I was a freshman, freshmen couldn't play back then. And the game, everything was going fine. We would be the team that prepared the defense for the coming offense of whatever game they were playing that week. So the freshman team was used for that. And when it came to FSU, it was kind of a friendly rivalry between the first team varsity defense and the freshman offense. That week, I became Ron Sellers, for the famous FSU wide receiver. It was the worst week of my life. I got so beat up by the varsity. I had to kind of remind them, I am not Ron Sellers. It was that kind of intensity. So they drove that into us. And so that became like, okay, I now understand the Florida FSU. And of course, that was early on in that rivalry. But Georgia was a close second. And and playing it in Jacksonville, and the fact, as you know, that when you're playing there, every play gets cheered to a monumental amount. Like if you're playing at Florida Field, Florida does good, they get cheered. But at Florida, Georgia, either team is going to have a good play, and they get cheered every play. So it was intense, extremely intense, and I love playing. I love playing Georgia, and it's funny because I've met a couple of the Georgia defensive backs over the years since then that I played against, and we've shared some good stories together.
Carlos, let's talk a little bit. You had an injury to your knee. You get drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. The injury kind of prevents you from having a professional career. You decide to go to law school at Duke University, and ever since you've become a very successful attorney. Talk a little bit about that transition from your playing days to becoming an attorney.
Very difficult. Very difficult. You're in such a high when you're playing football. Especially at the level of college football and getting some of the notoriety that I got. And I just love playing. I love working out. I love playing it. And so by the time I left Florida, I'd had 3 knee operations. And it was pretty over. It was pretty much over. When Dallas drafted me, I didn't even realize they were drafting me. Nobody had talked to me, nor did I expect anybody to draft me, because after my 3rd knee operation, I was pretty much going to Duke Law School. But they were really nice. They drafted me. They took me out there and they told me, look, work out, go to your first year of law school. And then if you can run the 40 in the same time that you ran it, as a sophomore, we'll give you X contract, which was a really, really very generous contract.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a great incentive for me. So I did. I worked out religiously. It was the hardest year of my life because I was going through law school thinking with all these, what I thought were people that were going to have been actually studying for 4 years. I think I was studying, but they were intensely studying. So I was doing that, and I was also working really hard. But at the end of the day, whenever I worked out really hard, my knees swelled up. So really, and I really so relied on my quickness and speed that it wasn't going to work out. But it was such an intense year for me. Once you get removed from your life, football life, that I never even watched a college football game. My first year of law school. What was really funny is one day in that first year of law school, I'm walking by the Duke cafeteria was away from the law school, and you'd walk through some fraternities, and I'm hearing a college football game. And so I go to the window just to kind of look in, and I'm kind of get caught into the watching it. It was some SEC game, kind of get watching it. And this guy inside the room comes in and closes the window so I couldn't see it. It just shocked me, It really, it was kind of like a shocking moment when I also realized, well, maybe that part of your life is over. So it did take me about 2 or 3 years to really kind of right the ship in terms of, okay, that's over. I have to figure out what the next phase of my life is. But, still until I was about, I swear to you, when I was about 25 or 26, I kept thinking that somehow some miracle would happen with my knee and I would still be giving, give pro football a chance. But that never happened. But I tell you what did happen is my law school team, flag football team, we won the championship 3 years in a row. And man, those defensive backs were not anything like the SEC defensive backs.
That's awesome. We got a few more minutes here left with Carlos Alvarez on the Titan MRI hotline. Carlos, talk about what it meant to you. In 2011, you were inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. That's a tremendous honor. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, it was one of the highlights of my life. I'm always it's always thrilling and humbling, really, to be recognized at that level. So it meant a lot to me. It meant a lot for my parents and my family that we have been able to achieve that. So in addition to that, and I still get a little bit choked up when I think about it. In addition to that, it's really a tribute to all the people that got me there. And you really start thinking about it, like all the people that got you there, from my parents to my boys club coaches, Rudy Freitas, who became the godfather of my son. Was a great boys club coach. To Coach Bubba McGowan, who was my receiver coach at Florida, who I absolutely love. To Coach Pankos, the offensive coordinator, Coach Graves, Gene Ellenson, the great defensive coordinator at Florida. I mean, all these people that shaped my life to get me to that point. And I think, and not to mention the John Reeves and everybody else of the 69 and 70 and 71 football team that were really part of that, part of the honor. You get named, but it's really an honor and a tribute to all those people. So that's what it meant to me, that we all got recognized that day.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, that's why I think you should be part of the Ring of Honor, because one of the
Thank you, Shane.
deals are you have to be in the College Football Hall of Fame or whatever. So hopefully we can get Carlos Alvarez's name and number up there in the Ring of Honor. Last thing, we got a text here from Jack on the Titan Amara text line. He wants to know, what was it like being Mr. Two Bits?
It was great. I got called to do this, and Shane, I don't know. I haven't followed every Mr. Two Bits. I don't know if you've gotten called to be Mr.
No,
Two Bits, have you?
my personality is not good for Mr. Two Bits.
Oh, you would be great, Mr. Two Bits. Really, come on. You deserve to be Mr. Two Bits. What you've done for Florida. What's funny is I think everybody would agree with this. With anybody who's been Mr. Two Bits, you get it. And it's not like you just walk out on the field and you just do it. You go practice it. And I practiced it and practiced it. And it was a thrill. You go out there and you're in the middle of the field by when I did it was kind of by myself. And to have all that crowd react to you, it's a thrill. So I'm glad I did it. I hope that you get to do it, and I know that everybody who gets called to do that is one of their thrills of their lives. It is just like when you're a punt return. I return a few punts in high school. I return a lot, but in college I return a few. Not my sophomore year, but my junior and senior year. And when you're catching a punt, what people don't realize, you're in the field all by yourself. You're the only person in that stadium full of people that you're there by yourself. And it's that kind of feeling when you're Mr. Two Bits. You're all of a sudden in the middle and everybody's looking at you and you're there by yourself doing that. And my biggest hope was not to fall down or do something to meet the position. But luckily it all worked out, because that adrenaline that you feel when they say, "Here come the Gators," and you go into that field. Mm-hmm. It's that same adrenaline that you'll feel when you're Mr. Two Bits.
Well, that's good stuff. Well, Carlos, we appreciate you taking your time to join the program today. Like I said, we're hoping your name will be the next you and Lomas Brown should be in the Ring of Honor. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed there, but I hope you and your family stay safe, and thanks for joining the show.
Thank you, Shane. And again, my best to you and your family, and thank you for having me.
Yep, that's the great Cuban comic, Carlos Alvarez, joining the program. Let you know, tomorrow's program, we have Alex Brown and Brent Beard talking college football. We got another Facebook Live comment here brought to you by Pound Hurt, your preferred business interruption attorneys. Lorraine says, "We all love watching you play, Carlos. You and John Reeves are the reason I love football." And, John Bob, like I said, I owe John Reeves, obviously Coach Spurrier, for everything I had in my career. But John Reeves is the guy that took me under his wings and gave me an opportunity in that orange and blue game by drafting me the first pick, with him being the head coach of the orange team. Like I said, tomorrow we're going to be joined by Alex Brown and Brent Beard. One last thing, let's get the play of the day before we get out of here. That was a tremendous interview. Play of the day is brought to you by the Best Restoration. Do you have COVID-19 concerns? Do what everyone is doing and hire the Best Restoration to fully sanitize and sterilize your home or office. Visit their offices this week for a free bottle of hand sanitizer when you mention the code Shane. Call 352-234-8994. And this day in sports, back in, 1993, in Major League Baseball, Carlos Martinez famously hits a ball off the head of Jose Canseco for a home run. I'm sure many of y'all remember that. Canseco went up to catch it, bounces off his head over the fence for a home run. But that's going to be a wrap for today. I want to thank Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show joining us, and Gator great Carlos Alvarez. You've been watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.